Hey everyone, welcome to PhoneArena side-by-side comparison of the Apple iPhone 3GS and the HTC Nexus One. Two really great top premier smartphones available right now. We all know the Nexus One was launched just recently and is of course considered as one of the flagship Android devices on the market. The Apple iPhone 3GS has been available since the summer. It continues Apple's legacy in the mobile market. We're going to stack them up side by side and see how they impact the user experience. The first thing we're going to talk about is just the design aspect for both phones. So from a quick first glance, you'll notice that they utilize the same exact form factor, which is the candy bar slate look. Now the Apple iPhone 3GS, it looks pretty much the same as it did when the first Apple iPhone came out. It has a clean surface, clean slate, only one hardware button on the front, while the Nexus One, it uses the same exact concept, very clean surface. You have your touch-sensitive buttons, which is becoming more widely used on a lot of Android handsets, and of course the trackball for another way of navigating. When you just compare both devices, the Apple iPhone 3GS is a little bit thicker and also a little bit wider at the same time. The Nexus One is just stretched out more, so it's a little bit longer, but you really don't notice too much of a difference with it. The materials they use, the iPhone uses this black plastic cover for the rear, while the Nexus One has a soft touch, Teflon coating on it, so it does, resist a lot of dust and dirt. Where the Apple iPhone you'll see a lot of, fingerprints when you hold it. The other thing that we do like about the HTC Nexus One is the screen technology they use. It's an active matrix OLED display, so it's very bright, vivid, and crisp. Also higher resolution compared to the iPhone. You really can't see it here, but the colors just jump out, and it definitely does make a dark room really bright just with the type of technology they use on the screen. So that's the one great aspect about it. The iPhone, though, not too many people talk about it, but it has an olaphobic coating on the screen. So every time you take this handset out of your pockets, it always looks brand new. There's no smudges or any fingerprints on the screen. It always looks fantastic. Other than that, that's pretty much the biggest things about the design. Pretty much similar. There's nothing really too different between each other. The iPhone, though, unfortunately, you can't take out the battery, where the Nexus One, you can remove the back cover. Gives you access to a lot of stuff like the micro SD card slot, the battery, and the SIM card slot. So Apple just doesn't want you, messing around with their device, as opposed to the Nexus One, which gives you access to a lot of stuff. Jumping into the software side of things, the Apple iPhone OS on the 3GS remains pretty much intact when compared to the first generation iPhone. It's a very simple and easy to use operating system. You have your main menu. Really, at this point, it's a little bit outdated looking with just the icons, but again, when this first was introduced, it was a pretty neat thing to see. As you can see, when you're moving between the various pages, it's very smooth, very intuitive. The theme that you notice with the Apple iPhone is simplicity and performance. They don't sacrifice performance by having a lot of graphical intensive applications or animations. The other neat thing about the Apple iPhone is when you're sending text messages, it still has the best on-screen QWERTY keyboard, and that's thanks to its predictive text options. And again, the platform runs really well. It's pretty smooth. There's very little instances whenever the phone itself starts to lag or slow down. So we'll continue to see how well it does compared to the Nexus One. Jumping into Android 2.1 on the Nexus One, there's just a high level of personalization with it, unlike the iPhone OS. The biggest thing you notice is the introduction of live wallpapers, so you can interact with it, which has a lot of graphical eye candy. That's partly thanks to the 1 GHz Snapdragon processor on the handset. Still, it doesn't seem as smooth or intuitive as something as the iPhone provides when you're moving between the main menus. But hey, it looks a lot better, and of course a little bit more up to date. Even the main menu, it almost looks like a 3D Rolodex, a pretty neat feature. When you're typing up, instead of typing up a text message, you could actually speak your text message. Something that's really neat concept, which you don't see too often that handsets utilize. The other thing is its on-screen QWERTY keyboard. Although it's not yet to the level of the iPhone, it works pretty well, but still not as good as the iPhone itself. iPod integration on the iPhone is truly spectacular. So for anyone who uses the iPhone, when you're just the presentation level it provides with cover flow is just top notch. Nothing yet really compares to what it offers. It just goes back to those fundamental themes of simplicity and performance. It doesn't sacrifice performance by making it too overly spectacular with a lot of graphics and 3D effects, but it works really well. It looks really nice. Unfortunately, the camera capabilities and the quality of it provides isn't to the level of what the Nexus One offers. You know, it only has a 3.2 megapixel camera. The biggest thing that we do like about the iPhone is its ability to focus in on specific areas just by pressing the touch screen. You'll focus on that specific area whether it's close by or far away. But other than that, the quality as far as even viewing videos, not as good as the Nexus One. That's just because it has a better resolution on the display itself. Unfortunately though, the Nexus One doesn't have the level of presentation that the iPhone provides with listening to music. You have your albums, you could go through it. Thanks to the Snapdragon processor, it does make scrolling a little bit easy, but just the overall look just looks really plain and boring actually. It reminds us of something you find even on a feature phone, which is the cover album. You have your on-screen controls, but that's about it. Nothing really special about the music player on the device. The great thing about the Nexus One when it comes to taking photos is that it has a little bit more options by changing various different settings on the phone, which the iPhone does not have. In addition, it takes better quality images thanks to the 5 megapixel camera with flash. Even taking videos, it's a higher resolution, so better quality. And we did notice that photos on the Nexus One were a little bit more lush when it comes to the colors. The other thing we liked about the Nexus One is its gallery application, where you can actually look through all your photos and videos and has this really nice 3D effect to it. A very graphical intensive application. So that's another aspect where we see the Snapdragon processor at work. Now, unfortunately, both handsets fared poorly when it came to phone call quality. You do notice a lot of static on both ends, both on the iPhone and also the Nexus One. The only thing different that we saw on the Nexus One is that it had a slightly louder speaker, so we were able to hear our callers, where on the iPhone it's a little bit more faint, a little bit more weak. As far as battery life is concerned with the iPhone, you managed to get at least a 1 good day of battery life before having to charge, which is at this point normal nowadays to see a smartphone last that long. But we'd have to give the iPhone a slight edge just because it kind of lasted a little bit longer in our taste than the Nexus One. We did notice that the iPhone did a better job of adjusting the brightness on display when you had the setting set to automatic. So that's probably one key feature that we did notice. Even in bright conditions, the display was bright enough to see, and even when it was in a dim setting, we were able to still view the display without having any issues. The Nexus One also fared pretty well as far as battery life is concerned, pretty much almost the same, except that just the iPhone seemed to just last a little bit longer. You get a good day's use out of the battery life between charges. Again, like we said, you could actually remove the battery instead of the iPhone where you can't. The other thing that we did notice is just that the brightness level, when you set it to automatic brightness, it just never seemed to match up correctly. We always had a hard time actually viewing the screen, so we generally would have to manually set it to a specific setting just to make it viewable for us to use. So there you have it. We've pretty much gone over all the aspects about the phone and just compared what we liked about it. The biggest thing is how it's going to impact the market right now. We know that the iPhone is still a contender, heavy contender actually, and still proves to be a dominant form in the market for anyone that's looking for a great multimedia device, top-notch quality from Apple. The HTC Nexus One has a level of personalization that the unfortunately Apple iPhone does not have. Android 2.1 does bring on along a lot of neat features that we do like. Even the Snapdragon processor makes the just the overall experience very tolerable compared to other Android handsets. So if you want to learn more, check out our in-depth reviews for both phones. You could check out our website at PhoneArena.com.